Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the NH Experience. And on today's show, got a great guest. Man hails from Carson, California. He is the West Coast. He embodies everything that is West Coast and also music and entertainment. You can catch him weeknights on Real 92.3 or the iHeartRadio app with Bootleg Kev and DJ Hed. Also, he's the co-founder of HomeGrown Radio that has done a remarkable job pushing not just West Coast talent, but talent in general with his partner, Chuck Dizzle. He is a man of action. He is a man of many words, but powerful statements. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only DJ Hed. What's going on, sir?
Hey, greetings and salutations. I appreciate you for having me on, my brother.
No, man, thank you for coming on, man. I know this has been a while in the making, but it's so much to talk about, man, to unpack.
So much.
Let's talk a little bit about, you from Carson, California. So what was growing up for you like? And then at what point did you realize you wanted to get on the media side of things and getting into radio?
Growing up for me, it was like a different situation just because I'm not necessarily like I say I'm from Carson because that's where I spent my developmental years. And when somebody asks you where you from, I always feel like you should answer that question with where did you become who you are? It's not like certain people be like, Corrupt is not from LA, or Exhibit is not from LA, or whatever the case may be. Felly Fail is not from LA. But I feel like when you become who you are, who the world knows you to be, and who you are satisfied with being known as, that's where you're from. I spent those years to me in Carson. And not only that, my mom's side of the family is from Compton, and my dad's side of the family is from Linwood. So I ultimately just say I'm from the east side because I spent my entire life up and down Wilmington. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, I think growing up for me was a unique experience because my mom's a single Black woman and, very strong, but more importantly, she was on her own too. And it was very interesting to me just because of how I came up and how I became who I was, and having the wherewithal to understand all of the sensory that I was experiencing just because of the simple fact that my mom moved a lot, because we were unstable growing up. I was on welfare until I was 18 years old when they kicked me off, So growing up in that type of experience, I think is something that not many people can relate to. But a lot of people come from, if that makes sense, that looks like you and I. So for me, that's one of the things that I kind of like. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I cherish it the most because of the simple fact that it is a traumatizing experience. But if you can push through that, at that point, the world is nothing like this. So that leads me to answer your other question about the media. This shit ain't nothing to me. Excuse me, but this is like nothing to me. This is so easy because I had a job since the 6th grade with a check stub. I've been contributing to SSI since I was in 6th grade. And wow. And that's just because my mom needed help. We was broke, we was poor. So we only went through a brief period of homelessness where we had to sleep in the car, or we was couch hopping or staying with relatives or whatever the case may be. My mom left home when she was 19. And that's an interesting story in itself. But I say that to say the media side of things to me is almost easy. Like my manager, my business partner, Salas, always say, I'm living in the whipped cream of life. Even when I'm taking slander on social media, even when I'm getting backlash, even when I'm being canceled or whatever the case may be, this is easy to me.
What did you discover about yourself? You talked about the strength of your mom. Obviously, that had an impact on you because you are a very strong individual to be in this game as long as you have. What made you stay consistent? Because I think a lot of young people don't understand the level of consistency you have to be successful in this business with all the great advice that you give, man.
For me, it's just if you look at it, right? What can you do? I'm gonna just tell you like this. My big homie G Malone told me this, I think it was almost 10 years ago. He told me this, and I remember it. That's how you know what stays with you, because you remember exactly where you were and what was happening when impactful things happen in your life. So my big homie G Malone, we was driving. We was in his Bentley. He had a Bentley, a blue Bentley GT, and we were, do you know where the 105 interchanges to the 110?
Oh yeah, that's right? Famous.
Yeah. So right there going, and when you could look over to the right and see the whole east side. So we were right there, and we were driving along that. And right as we turned over there, he was like, listen, Head, This is 10 years ago. He told me this. He's like, listen, Head. He said, if something you working for is supposed to change your life, why would it take any less than a lifetime to get it? And I was like, damn. And I don't, and at the time, like you said, at the time, I didn't realize how impactful that was in my life. But like I said, I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember where I was, what was happening, and those types of messages stay with me to the point where I don't feel bad for it taking me as long as it did. I feel grateful, to get to where I am. Stand diligent, and that's something that I always talk about when addressing other people about becoming whatever it is that you want to. Whether you're in athletics or whether you're in media, whatever, it's gonna take time. And if you're not willing to put the time in, then go fuck yourself. For lack of a better way, to say it, because I don't think that, and I know, like, trust me, I'm very self-aware. You know this about me, but I'm well aware that how I come across. Like I was telling Reason the other day, I think that I know that I come off like I'm very aggressive. I'm a very abrasive, and I could be the loud black man in the room or whatever the case. I don't care. I'm right though. You know what I'm saying? And so that to me is worth more. And I think that when I'm talking to young people about working towards a goal, it's not about what everybody else is doing. And I think that that's what we get caught up in. We get caught up in the minutia of things, as Silas would say, the minutia of life. People care more about how they get there than the actual destination, which is the problem. My life changed when I stopped caring about the vehicle and I started caring more about the destination.
That's deep, man. DJ Hed out here dropping gems right now. So what I want to talk to you about, man, because I feel like you are wise beyond your years, and that's no disrespect when I say that. I think that's just
not taking
an acumen of what you've accomplished and what you've experienced thus far. And so take me through the time at Cerritos College when you were real heavy on radio, and then take me through the part where you were a part of history. I like to call it as the resurgence of West Coast hip hop. Back when you had Blue Division, you had the emergence of TDE and all those other companies.
That to me is three pivotal times in my life where I feel like were the best times of my life. That being one of them. And at the time, though, it was real desolate because you got to think, and I always talk about this too. There was a time out here on the West. There was time in fuck the West. There was a time in Los Angeles when the industry left us for dead. And a lot of times I'm coming from that place of I have a humongous chip on my shoulder, right? And that chip comes from the time period between roughly 2005 to about 2009 ish, right? So I always say in music terms, after Game came out and before the New Boys. Okay. So right in that time period is when I felt like the industry left Los Angeles for dead. And the reason why I say that is because there was nothing going on out here. We were going on like Glasses Malone, Problem, Hot Dollar, Nipsey. There were people actively pursuing music out here. Gorilla Black was part of that. There were the 40 Glocks, the Spider Lokes, and Bishop Lamont, Mike Stroh, Chevy Jones. Like it was a whole bunch of these people who was pushing some West Coast shit, unapologetically. And TDE was established in 2004. I met them shortly after, around 2005-ish. And we were all pushing this line. And I remember that time period where it was nothing going on. The people in quote unquote position, and the position that I hold right now, they weren't really acknowledging what was going on in the city. And so if you notice, that's something that I try to do on a daily basis, not even every now and then or when I get around to it. On a daily basis, I'm trying to make sure I post a young artist from the city. I'm trying to make sure that I shout out a young artist from the city. I'm trying to make sure I support, I pull up. I go to Wilmington Arms. You know what I'm saying? I go to the Culver Projects. I go to the Nickerson Gardens. I go to the Jordan Downs. I go everywhere I go to the east side of Long Beach. I was there 3 days ago. I try to go the north side. I try to make sure I'm everywhere, if nothing else, to say to somebody, I see you. I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing. What you're doing is positive. Keep doing that shit. Your song may be whack, but that don't mean you are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So those are the things I try to do my part. That wasn't a thing in that no man's land, in that time period that I'm talking about. That wasn't a thing. We didn't even know what these people looked like that were quote unquote, you know, our radio people. I knew what Big Boy looked like. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like other people, I knew what they looked like because I made it my mission to go see what they look like. And in all fairness, social media wasn't a thing back then. We talking about MySpace. So Black Planet, it was like, it wasn't a thing back then. So not to sound like an old head, but that's the truth. And I feel like at that time is when I got a lot of my character and a lot of my structure was built for the mentality of what that I have today, and which is I'm pushing this. And I always say I'm not anti anybody. I'm just pro us. And so that being said, it's no different than. And then when I finally, I was doing radio at Cerritos College. I never talked about this, but I'm actually I'm gonna tell you something that I've never spoken about ever publicly on Homegrown Nowhere. I used to do this thing called Throwback. What was it called? It was something to the effect of Throwback. It was like a basically what people call Throwback Thursday now. And I was doing this in 2005. Okay. Where I would take old stuff of the culture and rehash it for my radio program on Cerritos College radio. And I remember Kevin Slow Jammin' James was one of the radio personalities on the radio at the time. I think he was on At the Beat, him and PJ Butter. And he came up there. He loved what we were doing, gave us props, all that kind of stuff. And then I later on, I heard something throwback with PJ Butter and Kevin Slow Jammin' James on the radio. And I was just crushed. I was like, that was my first taste of, oh, motherfuckers is playing for keeps. Okay, like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't really, okay, all right. You know what I'm saying? I all right, bet. So that taught me one lesson. The other part is I went to Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey used to be on the radio here in Los Angeles at 92.3 The Beat as well. Big P, we used to be work on the morning show, stuff like that. I went up. I don't even know if they remember me, but I went up there. I won a chance to go sit in on the Steve Harvey morning show. And I was sitting there and I watched this man do his radio show. And I just was in awe. Like, look at this shit. Like, he's talking to the entire city right now. I want to do this. And I was already serious about it because obviously I was at Cerritos College doing my radio show, but I wasn't like in, and I didn't know anybody like that. So when I saw that, to me, it stayed with me in a sense that this may or may not be possible. You know what I'm saying? And then also within that no man's land of time period, there were no real representation industry wise from the West. And so at that point, I was very upset because I didn't feel like we were being represented in the proper way. Right. And so I'm like, one day I'm going to be the guy that's going to represent what we do out here the right way. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be no money. It's not going to be no agenda. It's not going to be you can't pay none of that. It's going to be authentic and it's going to work. It took 12 years. You know what I'm saying? But again, like my bro said, dedication, hard work plus patience.
I mean, I totally agree with it. I mean, I've said, when I told this to Chuck, and I'll say it to you when I interviewed him on the show a while back, but I felt like you two, when I got a chance to really know who you guys were and really understand what Homegrown was doing, I felt like you guys were the Theo and Julio G of our generation because of what you guys have thrusted out there and what you guys, the mission that you all were on, which is not only just bringing the West Coast back, but bringing more talent into the music and entertainment scene.
Thank you, dog. That's a big shoot. Shout out to Julio G. That's when I felt. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm on now, I made it. When I really felt like I made it is when Julio G jumped into our chat room. We used to do Homegrown on a bullshit ass on a laptop. It was this old website called Ustream. This is before Facebook, Instagram Live. This is before all of that. We used to just open up the laptop and just point the laptop at ourselves, right? And just go live. And that's how we were doing Homegrown. And Julio G jumped in the chat room. We had 4 people in the chat room, and Julio G was one of them one day. And he was just like, he said, I see what y'all brothers are doing. He was like, I love this. It reminds me of what we built with K-Day. And I was just that was like, bro, you couldn't tell me nothing. There was 3 moments I felt like that in my radio career. 1 is when Julio G did that. 2 is back in the day, roughly like 2005, 2006, when DJ Dench gave me his phone number. It was his actual cell phone number, and he picked up when I hit him. And then obviously recently when I got the DJ for Big Boy, like those are like pivotal moments for me where it's like I'm a radio guy, like like Charlamagne would say, I'm a radio guy, bro. Like a lot of people, and they teach you this too, which is I feel some type of way about it, but they teach you that people listen to the radio to hear their favorite song. Me being the radio guy I didn't never listen to the radio for the music. I listened for the talk breaks.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I think it's about personality. And that's something that both of you guys have brought to the table. And I think that was something that was missing too. I think the personality aspect, the way that you all connect with the people, the way that you all would, like you said earlier, touch hands and go through different communities, be able to be there. I think that was so symbolic. I think that kind of gets glossed over. And I hope one day when you guys do your documentary, that gets shown, because I think that's something that really gets glossed over a lot of times.
I appreciate that.
Obviously, you and Chuck connected. You guys formed HomeGrown Radio. How long before you guys felt like, okay, we're on to something?
Woo! So I don't know. I don't know the exact moment, but I do remember when it started to be like a real thing. And my homeboy Smarts, Jamal Todd, rest in peace to the homie Smarts. He's the one that introduced me to Chuck. I didn't know who Chuck Dizzle was, didn't care. And I was doing my thing at Cerritos College. Simultaneously, unbeknownst to me, Chuck was doing his thing at Long Beach State. And when we linked up, it was just like instant. It was just like, oh, this is my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, we both are radio guys. Like, we loved this platform. And I think the love of it is what connected us the most. And then it eventually grew into like a brotherhood. But I think that the love, like when you love something, like I know this is something like around like the marijuana community. When you share a blunt with somebody, that's a different experience. I don't know because I don't smoke, but I've been told that that's what it is. So when you love something, especially when you're a child, I look at it like me and Chuck Dizzle are stepbrothers of radio. Radio birthed us separately, but brought us together as a family, if that makes sense. So I think that when we first linked up, it was just something like we were just doing out of the love. And then it turned into, this could really be something, you know, if we really if we take it serious. So one day, and now mind you, I didn't have nothing. I was broke up until I got hired at iHeart in real life. I was broke for the first 30 years of my life. That's the truth. So me and Chuck doing Homegrown for 10 years straight, we were just doing it out of the pocket. And you talking about a guy who didn't have no job. Me, in 2007, I got fired from the AAA, from the Auto Club down there on Fig, downtown LA. I worked at the call center, and they fired me. And that was the day when I decided, when they fired me, and they have, you know, they walk you out. The whole production is so unnecessary. And so when they fired me, they walked me out to my truck, and I was smiling. And I remember my supervisor looking at me, and I was just like, oh, you have no idea what you just did. Like, you have no idea. I'm a different type of motherfucker, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I get this from my mom. So that was the day when I decided, I said, I'm never going back. I'm either going to be 55 years old, living on my mom's couch as a bum because I didn't make it, or I'm gonna make it. There's no in between. This is the end game. And so that's what I did. And so Homegrown was a part of that. And so one day I told Chuck, I said, hey, if you want to do this, let's do it for real. He's like, what you mean? I'm like, let's turn this into a business. And he was like, nah, let's just, I wanted, Chuck be really reluctant. He's slow. So he's really reluctant to change things, move things around. And I'm disruptive as hell. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, no, let's just do it. Let's figure it out. I'm like, no, I figured it out already. We're going to turn this into like this. We're going to do. We're going to split everything 50-50. If there's bills to be paid, how much are they? I'm paying them 50-50 with you. And we're going to turn this into a company and we're going to split it right down the middle, have 50-50. You in or no? Period. And he was like, damn, all right, let's do it. So that was kind of the first time where me and Chuck was on the same page. Well, I pressed him, but we were on the same page as far as what this can possibly become. And out of that, like it just blew and it flourished into something else, but it wasn't overnight. I remember paying people gas money to come do our show. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember, I'm not gonna put nobody out there, but I remember having to beg people to come to Chuck's apartment to do interviews with us. I remember all that. And these dudes are still my friends as of today, but back then they were artists and they were popping. And I wanted them to come to HomeGrown, to Chuck's apartment, to do their interview with us because a certain radio station in the city wasn't showcasing LA music in the same way.
Man, that's dope, man. I like I said, man, I have followed you guys. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you all have done and what you all do. But I want to talk a little bit about your connection with Charlamagne Tha God and how that relationship formed, and then what was the most impactful things or advice that he's given you.
There's so many, dog. It's so many. Charlamagne is. What's interesting to me is I just got done talking, going back and forth with a troll on my Instagram because he says that I'm always dick riding Charlamagne, and it's always funny to me when I hear that type of thing. When I hear those types of things, just because they don't, people are dumb. They don't have nuance. They lack information. Charlamagne used to come to LA years ago, 15 years ago, when Devi Dev, my friend Devi Dev, used to bring him out.
Right.
That's the first time. That was our first interaction with Charlamagne. We didn't know him. He was a dude from South Carolina. We didn't know him. We didn't know him like that. He was just, that's Dev's homie, so he good with us. And at that time, I'm running around with glasses and we doing our thing. So that's when I first met Charlamagne in real life. That was easily 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago, something like that. And he was flying out here. He would go to auditions and he would sleep on Devi Dev's couch. And we didn't know him at all. And so what ended up happening was years later, his glow up was something that I've obviously been a fan of, and I've always watched him ever since he was with Wendy. And I'm like, I like he's crazy. Don't get me wrong. Like back in the day, he was wild. Like, what I'm saying? I have the ability to learn from other people's mistakes. So I'm watching him and I'm like, yeah, that's not the play. I wouldn't do that. Or, oh yeah, I wouldn't say that. But so I'm able to see those things. And so I was able to critique him from afar. And then when we finally did connect on our own, it was more like I respected him. And then he respected me more or less as a young black man trying to do what he did as a young black man. And so in 2015-ish, about 2015-ish, when they launched iHeart, Charlamagne kind of knew who I was. We didn't have a real connection like we do now. But Charlamagne kind of knew who I was. And I remember Glasses, reaching out to him like, hey, my little homie trying to get on the radio. They finally got an urban station out here that's actually they actually have a shot at hiring some black people for once. Can you put in a word? Hell yeah. I remember Hed. It's all good. Put in a word for me to my boss, Doc Winter. And Charlamagne was one of the people who actually went out of his way to try to get me hired. This is in 2015. Whoa. And so a lot of people don't know that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to do that. And he didn't know me. He didn't know me in the sense that he knows me now to know that I wasn't going to fuck over his recommendation, get in there and wild out, or you know what I'm saying? And so he didn't have to do that, but he did do that. So to me, those types of things are completely impenetrable. When you do stuff you don't have to do to benefit someone to little or no benefit to yourself. So those selfless acts stay with me. And so we forged a relationship based on that. I remember DMing him. I DM'd him and I said, man, I just want to thank you. Like, I appreciate you so much because I got the job. I was like, I appreciate you so much. They hired me. You know, I swear to you, like, I'm not gonna let you down. Whatever, right? And I'm like, whenever you come to LA, like, I know you don't need it and I ain't got it, but I'm taking you to dinner or whatever I could do. And whenever if you need anything when you in LA, hit me. You know what I'm saying? He was like, bro, you don't have my cell phone number? Because he keep DMing me, and I'm like, nah. So he sent me his cell phone number, and then ever since that day, that's 5 years ago, we've been solid, bro. And you know, for you, and then he'll like reach out to me and just see how I'm doing. Like, what's up, Ed? He called me, what's up, Ed? I'm like, what's up, bro? What you need? He like, nah, I don't need nothing. Just checking in. You good? Like, what you working on? You know, give me some game. Blah 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 blah. Right. And so those conversations will be 20 minutes here, you know, 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. So then it turned into half an hour, 40 minutes. Then, you know, then one day they go an hour. And then it's like, then we start having real conversations about platforms and putting Black people in positions and other conversations I can't, you know, I don't want to talk about publicly, but
right.
Those types of things, tutelage. He provided me with a lot of tutelage. You know, and I think that's important, especially for Black men in our positions, because we don't have that. I came up under a regime where the game is to be sold and not to be told. And I hate that because no other community operates that way. The Jewish community puts each other up on economics. You know, I see the Asian community spending dollars with each other. I have Middle Eastern people that, you know, they go to the swap meets and they all patronize each other's businesses and stuff like that. They giving game, they sharing wisdom. White people I know, book clubs, they sharing information. Venture capitalists. Every other community is congregating and sharing information, and hip hop, because that's our culture at this point as Black people. Well, you got what's the bag looking like? Or you got to pay me to meet with you, or you know, you got to pay me to play your record, and like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So for someone like him, where he had no benefit from me at all, other than love, it's like, here, come here, I got you. This is how you do this. This is what I'm gonna teach you. This is what I'm learning. Come to New York. Come to Uncommon Sense. You know, I got a show on MTV. Come through. Come do my podcast. You know. Come to Breakfast Club. Like, no one has to do those things. So At this point, nobody could tell me nothing about that man. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that there's anything. For us, there's no stone unturned. A lot of people know I went on vacation with him. We went to Anguilla. He had been trying to talk me into going to Anguilla for years. But like I said, I was broke up until 2015. So I didn't feel like I deserved. Me going to Anguilla 2 years ago was the first vacation I've ever taken in my life. I've never taken a vacation before in my life. One, I couldn't afford it. Two, I didn't feel like I deserved it at that point. So me going to Anguilla with Charlamagne was another big step for me, because I met his family. I met his wife, his daughters. You know, that's an intimate thing, especially for him. He doesn't post his family. No one knows what his daughters look like. Nobody knows what his wife looks like. And so those are real intimate. I'm a part of the family. So when people make outside commentary based on my relationships, it's always intriguing to me at how much they lack information and nuance. So at this point, our relationship is a brotherhood. You know, I share things I would never share with other people with him, and same thing with me. He'll hit me up, he'll call me and tell me some shit that he hasn't announced yet. Or I know things that he's working. He sent me like mock-ups, like, hey, this is what I'm working on. What you think? And it's like, those types of things are priceless, because you get input on things. It's just like going to a studio with your favorite rapper almost. Your favorite rapper pull you in the studio, like, tell me what you think about this album before I put it out. It's like, damn. You know, so it's those types of things. Yeah. Those types of relationships to me are the best ones, and it's invaluable.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think a lot of people misconstrue admiration or respect for, quote, dick riding And that's because they're just ignorant. They choose to be at this point in time. I've had a tremendous amount of respect for Charlamagne just from afar. I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, but just reading his books or listening to conversations that he's had, I have a tremendous amount of respect. I think he's a very intelligent, cool brother, man, that really has worked hard for his. And I think from afar, just me personally, I continue that's inspirational to me. So I'm always got my ears open to intelligence and wisdom of any kind. I think a lot of other people do as well. When you look at yourself, because like I said earlier, you are wise beyond your years, but another brother whom we lost way too soon was the great Nipsey Hussle. And the one thing that I respected about Nip, I liked his music. I caught on to his music about 2010-ish. But the one thing I really admired about him was his business acumen above anything else, because that man has such an incredible business acumen just from afar, watching his moves and the vision that he had, man, for such a young brother at that time, man, was remarkable. And I loved it because I stay in that area. So yeah. I can see the ripple effects of what he was accomplishing and what he was trying to do in the community. How did you guys forge that relationship? I remember you saying in an interview that you were shocked that he actually shouted you out. Said you was out here banging the West Coast like it was 96. So talk a little bit about that.
My experience with Nip is like, it's an interesting one to me because it goes back to us coming up, and I know he remembers me from back then. Shout out to Jorge, shout out to JP, Jorge Peniche. He has an iconic photo at this point, and it's all of us in this photo, and my stupid ass is looking away, but because I missed you. Shout out to DJ Malski. He always say I always miss the moment. Every time I miss the moment. But it's a iconic photo, and it's from like 2008, and it's like me, Glasses, Nipsey, Compton Menace, J Rock, Ab-Soul, and it's like I'm gonna try to find this photo so you can see it, bro. But it's an iconic ass photo of us. And this is obviously what, 2008. So you talking about 12 years ago. And so that, like I said, it was quote unquote what we call the New West, right? It was a movement at the time. It was a movement called the New West, and Glasses Malone, Bishop Lamont, and other people were involved in spearheading that movement because they were the two biggest dudes at the time, one with real industry record deals and whatnot. And so back then, everybody else was kind of independent. Top was still independent. Nip was independent. I think Hot Dollar got a deal with Def Jam, but then he went back to independent, I believe. And so it was like a whole movement at the time where it was no energy out here. And so they kind of created their own energy. And so Nip was a part of that. And I met Nip back then. We didn't have a relationship back then, but I know he remembers me from back then, which I think played a role into us forging our brotherhood later on. So to paint the picture, I actually got a shout out to Salas, my manager, Salas. I had kind of like low key, I never spoke about this publicly before, but I didn't give up on artists, but I had a bad taste in my mouth over artists. And that's from years and years. You got to think, I've been waving this flag since 2005, bro. I'm talking about heavy. Like I'm on record as yelling West Coast in 2005. In 2005, 15 years ago, I'm on record yelling West Coast, right? So you got to think after, I don't know, 7 years, you might get a little burnt out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just a little bit.
You know, so 2012 created a different energy for me because I was able to produce a record for my big homie Glasses called That Good with Todd Allison. That was the second record I ever produced in my life. Me and the homie Jim Mays and Glasses produced that. It's people like, I don't see your name on it. I didn't produce under my name at the time because it was strategy. I didn't want to produce under my name because I felt like if I no longer was making hot beats, then I wouldn't get booked as a DJ. So I wanted to separate it. I didn't want to be like Mustard. So that's the backstory on that. But back then, Nipsey was dropping, and we had our own separate movements. Nipsey jumped on a song called East Sidin' with Glasses. It's a song. It's called East Sidin' Crip Gang, right? And it was a song that they jumped on that they did together. It was Nipsey, Glasses, and Snoop Dogg. Around that time is when we kind of reconnected with Nip. And it was interesting to me. It was interesting to me because at the time, if you remember, the whole entire music industry were Bloods.
So at one point, yeah, it was an influx.
You know, it was So that was like around the. I'm not a Crip or a Blood. I'm not affiliated. Yeah, but
I get it.
I was around all of the street dudes. I was always a square around all the street dudes. So being around that atmosphere is kind of like what Ford. It was like I think that's where the street dudes like Nipsey kind of had a different perspective on me, because it's like, who is this square dude that be with all that he be with? He be in the 60s. I'm everywhere. I'm DJing in the Nellas and Compton. I'm everywhere. I don't. It didn't matter to me. I'm just going to DJ. So I think that's where I got respect, is building my stuff up from the street level. Then when it comes to the industry, obviously, shout out to Salas. When I started to go away from dealing with artists directly, like going to the studio, giving a critique, giving honest feedback, I stopped doing all of that shit because I felt like people didn't appreciate it. I just kind of stopped. And so Salas was like, you got to get back to the studio. You got to get back to dealing with these artists because they need you. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. They ungrateful. They don't listen. Everybody want to make South music. Everybody trying to do what everybody else is doing, and they not listening to me. And they're like, yeah, they're not listening to you. But one day they're going to listen. And I'm like, well, when? Because I'm not going, you know what? I'm not going back to the studio with no artists, period.
Right.
The first time I got back in the studio with an artist was Joe Moses, when he started working on his project. This is years ago when Gentry was managing him. And I went back to the studio and I just was like, bro, I'm not doing this no more. They not listening to me. So I just kind of walked off. The next time we got back in the studio, I remember J-Rock. Shout out to my big homie J-Rock, the bodyguard. J-Rock was like, yo, Nip wants you to pull up. And I'm like, damn, for real? He was like, yeah, come to the studio, cuz. And I'm like, I don't know, bro. I was like, let me know when. Let me know. I'll pull up. So I remember we ended up pulling up. And when I pulled up to the studio, I remember nobody being around. And this is years into Nipsey working on Victory Lap. Okay. And what I mean by nobody being around, it wasn't all this fanfare. Like it wasn't glamorous like it is now to be in the Nipsey Hussle business like that, right? Mm-hmm. It was like a handful of people around, period. You know, you had Mike and Keys. They were there at the studio. Mars was upstairs in the studio. BJ the Chicago Kid was there. And that's pretty much it at the studio. I'm not talking about the business and Sam or nothing. I'm talking about in the studio. And so I used to just go every day almost. Well, not every day, but a couple times a week I would pull up. Me and Silas would pull up to the studio and just vibe with Nipsey and Mike and Keys, cook up with Mars and them. And that's kind of the forging of our relationship, because I was around when it wasn't necessarily cool to be around, if that makes sense. Gotcha. And it was just like, he respected it. He respected the fact that I wasn't coming to the studio. I wasn't coming to the studio to hang with Nipsey. I was coming to the studio to listen to music. I was coming to the studio to provide some insight, because I have years of experience in this business and I could be of assistance. And I didn't want nothing. You can't find that one artist or producer and who will tell you I took some money from them, or I asked for points on their album, I asked for points on their record. I don't do none of that. Everything I provide is genuine. So that's something that Nipsey picked up on. That's something that Mike and Keys and Mars picked up on, which is why our bond is like this. And so that's kind of the formulation of our relationship. I think it was an embodiment of the years of us interacting with each other. But then at the end of it, it became authentic because he respected my intentions, which is what he ended up telling me.
No, that's incredible, man. I mean, like I said, I admire everybody over there, man, because I just watching what they're doing. I love the music, but just seeing how they're continuing the legacy on with Jay Stone and Pac Man, and like you said, his bodyguard J Rock and Black Sam and Killer Twan and everybody over there, man, including yourself. Just seeing you in the ads and making sure that you're keeping the Marathon Continues legacy alive.
I
Um,
think it was dope too. Not to cut you off, but
no, no, no.
I think it was dope too to celebrate the wins, because I remember like him telling
Mhm.
me, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm gonna do, Head. Which this is the plan." And his execution was unbelievable, because it was like, no, he told me before it happened. He told me, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do a partnership. I'm not ever signing again. I'm gonna do a partnership." He did a partnership with Atlantic. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna open up the store. We're gonna have this. I'm gonna have a smart store." I'm like, "What?" And at the time, you like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? This is years ago, bro. Like, what do you, bro? Apple don't have a smart store. Like, what do you mean? You know, you know. So it was just like
Brother
things
was
like
on
that,
some next level.
next level type stuff. And then anyway, for him to include me in something is like his book. I didn't even know that I was in the book until after he passed, because I didn't know like who gets the hard copies and reads the
Mhm.
books, and he didn't tell me. And I think that was intentional. And so that's just, I don't know, man. That relationship different, bro. That's special to me. That's a different one.
No, I can absolutely tell, man. It's something that I remember the first time I got a chance to really get in front of you and Chuck, man. We were at when he had the Plains Crew celebration.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like that would be the last event at that store. But I felt like, man, it was one big family reunion because I felt like I got a chance to talk with you guys and talk with Sticks from Watts and you know, talk, with Killer Twan and talk to Black Sam. I actually got a chance to speak to Nipsey for like 30 seconds. He was walking out and and my camera guy we were getting footage as media. So we were getting footage and my camera guy was right at Nipsey. And I think Nipsey was saying something to him like, oh crap, hopefully he ain't, crossed the line. Right. So I go over there, like trying to find out, hey man, is everything cool? Like, we're not here to disrespect. We just here to get the footage. He's like, no, no, no. He's like, I just don't, I'm about to smoke, so I don't want that to be on camera. I said, hey, not a problem. Put the camera down. I said, hey, brother, just real quick. I admire what you're doing. I respect your business acumen. Music's already incredible, but I really respect your business acumen, how you, uplifting these brothers out here, man. And he's like, oh, good looking out, man. He has that voice, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, okay, I'm done. I
You
spoke to
know what?
Nip, I'm done.
It's something that a lot of people don't know about Nipsey is, when people know that he read books and he was a big book advocate, but what a lot of people don't know is that he was up early as fuck. Like Nip would be up early in the morning, bro. Like early in the morning. I'm talking about 6, 7 in the morning, bro. After being at the studio, like he'll be up
Mhm.
6, 7 in the morning, top of the top. I'm like, bro, it's too early, bro. We just left the studio. You left after I left. You know what I'm saying? Like top of the top, got to get to it. I'm like, bro, you tripping? Like, yeah. So I think like that's something that people don't know about him, and people swear, "Oh, I'm a hustle like Nip." It's like, bro, that's you don't know what you asking for.
No, absolutely, man. I want to talk to you real quick before I let you get on out of here, man. Your time obviously at Real 92.3, working with iHeart, you developing your brand, you working with BPM. Congratulations once again with that. And you continuing to work with artists. You're doing your features. I see on IG how you're giving, constructive criticism to the artists, keeping them on the right track. Uh, but what is something that Head has not achieved that you still want to achieve that you haven't reached that pinnacle yet?
I'm working on a book.
Okay. All right.
Um, I've talked briefly about it, but and I don't want to give too much away, but I'm working
Sure.
on a book, and I just got reinvigorated with life once I start getting into books, because I come from a real, and I mean, people gonna take this the wrong way, but I come from some nigga shit, like when my family is just not, my family is not the most advanced family when it comes to ideals, technology, insight as far as mental health and awareness and stuff like that. My family is not that. My family is we just a family from the east side, and it's love, but it's still like it's not the place you go when you want to get some real insight on universal law of attraction and manifestation and stuff like that. And so that stuff was never taught to me growing up. No shade to my mom or my grandparents or nothing like that, but none of that stuff was a part of my world until 2015, almost about 2000, till I was 30. When I turned 30 is when I first started like, wait a minute, there's information out here. Like I've always been inquisitive, but I mean, like, not information like, I could learn how to sew on YouTube, or I could learn how to make beats on YouTube. I'm talking about real information, mindfulness stuff, stuff that can change generations. And once I start tapping into some of that, The Secret, I think that's the one everybody starts with. I got The Secret, which is the book. And then from there, I went to like 48 Laws of Power. And then I just went down a rabbit hole, bro. And I just started consuming information at an alarming rate. When I tell you, like, I mean, I'm sure you see my book posts, but once I started tapping into books is when I was like, damn, my people are not exposed to this.
Right.
And we were at a disadvantage in a way, and it's a real serious disadvantage in a real way, because we're not exposed to the same things that other cultures are exposed to. And it's the famous saying, if you want to hide some information from me, put it in a book. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, that's some real shit. So I'm trying to change that narrative. And a lot of people have already set out to do that. Charlamagne dropped 2 books. He got another one on the way, I believe. Don't know if he announced that yet. Sorry. But I think that people that look like us and come from where we come from, disseminating and regurgitating information back into the communities of people that look like us is uber important. Mm-hmm. It's so important that I can't even stress how important that is, because just like certain people would take information from me because I'm DJ Hed from the radio, and they take information like, this is how, if I go on my Instagram live right now and say, this is how you get on the radio, every artist in 100-mile radius is going to be like. So if I also get on my Instagram and say, this is how you can take $100 and create a sustainable business for yourself digitally, or this is how you can take you selling plates on Instagram to you having a full-fledged business on platforms in multiple locations or whatever. I think those are just as important. And so a book to me that I'm composing, the book that I'm putting together is a mixture of that. It's a mixture of, it's something I call the triangle. I'm not going to talk about it, but it's something I call the triangle to success. Mm-hmm. And then it has my life stories wrapped around it to reinforce the narrative, basically, is what is the premise of my book that I'm trying to work on. And I'm trying to drop it in about 18 months to almost 2 years out, because I want to give myself time. I don't want to rush it. And I want to have a platform that is conducive of me having the biggest impact. I'm also starting a book club. Okay. I've mentioned that, but I haven't really gone into detail. But yeah, I'm starting a book club in about 2 weeks, where I'm going to encourage minorities, but everyone's welcome to join my book club. As a part of my book club, we're going to be doing communal video chat sessions with the authors. Charlamagne has already agreed to do it.
Nice.
50 Cent, he just dropped. I got his book right here.
That's incredible, man.
Hustle harder, hustle smarter. I got 50 Cent on deck to be a part of this, to talk about his book as well. I think this is going to be big. I'm trying to change the narrative of my profession. And what I mean by that is, people be like, you just a DJ. And to me, it's always funny to me, because it's like, okay, that's fine. Just because that's something I'm passionate about and I chose my career path, that doesn't define me. I define it. And so who's to say a DJ can't do this or can't do that? And I want to shout out to Jamie Foxx. I know that's hella random, but that's who I modeled my career after. because Jamie Foxx is the motto, and I would love to have a conversation with him. But Jamie Foxx is the motto, and the reason I say that is because if Jamie Foxx were to host the Grammys next year, would that surprise you?
Absolutely not.
If he were to drop a book, would that surprise you?
Nope.
If he were to drop an album tomorrow, would that surprise you? Not
at all.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx has an Academy Award. He has a Grammy. So I think, like, for me as DJ Hed, Jamie Foxx is the goal. I don't want you to be surprised by anything I do because it all makes sense.
Oh, absolutely, man. One thing you said, and I've it resonated with me, but I've always been on that path. You said, you told artists you cannot make songs or make music to be regional. It has to be global. Basically, it has to be the best, has to be the greatest. And when I got into this industry, as far as the media side, my goal was to compete, not with the people that were in my sector, but the ESPNs, the Fox Sports, the higher level, upper echelon tier of media. And that's how my mind has always worked. So I was very, enthusiastic when you said that. I'm like, yes, somebody, even though it's on the music side or entertainment side, it's still the principle is still the same. You have to think on a higher plateau. And I say that because I want to ask you your perspective on this. In today's society, obviously, and even before that, how important is Black media?
Bro, it's so important. Black media is so important to the point where it's almost criminal if you think about it, how underrepresented Black media is, just because of the simple fact of just sheer numbers and demographics. And I also fall victim to that. People always ask me, why is no Black people on the radio in Los Angeles? I'd be like, you have to understand demographics. I always throw that out there every time. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, there's no Black people here. Now, what you mean is Black people everywhere? No, it's not. When you break down the actual demographic of who I'm talking to on the radio, it's not enough Black people to move the needle. We set the culture. We create the culture. We don't control it. That's the problem. So when I say that we create the culture, yes, we create your favorite song. We create the fashion trends. We create everything that is cool. Black people do that. Do we control it? No, because at some point, somebody from a different culture comes in to monetize it, or somebody from a different culture comes in to take advantage of it, or somebody from another culture comes in and dictates how our culture is disseminated amongst the people. So in real life, we don't control shit. We create it, but we don't control it. That's the problem. Black media can change that narrative. Black media can be a vehicle to control our own narratives in a different way. It always makes me laugh that a lot of these culturally clueless institutions, they're quick to throw out numbers, right? Well, Black people don't represent the mass majority of the population, so therefore it doesn't really make sense for us to hire this many Black people, or we got one Black person on the team. That's cool until some shit go down, until some Black Lives Matter shit go global. Then they want to now everybody want to talk to Black people. Oh, you need some niggas in the room now. Okay, gotcha. So it's like, come on, bro. You need Black people in every facet of life.
True.
On every level. Black media being so an essential. Shout out to Gavin Newsom. Black media is essential. And I want to say that Black media is essential because we need somebody in the room that is not culturally clueless to control and disseminate our narratives. This is my problem with somebody like academics, right? My problem with somebody like academics is I don't want him speaking for me publicly. He doesn't represent me. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Not me.
He don't speak for me. You know what I'm saying? So Black media is so important that we also have to govern our own. We have to govern our own people, because when you just let your people run wild, and then you're going to be misrepresented. Misrepresented is worse than being underrepresented, in my opinion. It's just like bad credit is worse than no credit. I'd rather not establish credit than have bad credit. And I'd rather have no Black people in the room than to have the wrong Black person in the room. So because at least there's a chance to get a black person in the room who I do want to speak for me. At least there's a chance for me to get some credit and make the payments on time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I would rather certain black people shut the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't speak for us. Terry Crews, you don't speak for us.
Not at all. Not at all.
Please. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, black media, I think we need people in the room who we actually want to represent us. It may not be everybody. It's impossible to have one person represent everybody. But at the same time, I think it's important to have people in the room with wherewithal and a little bit of a finger on the pulse of the culture. So that way we're not misrepresented, because that is the ultimate betrayal. Once we finally do get a black person in the room, like, bro, are you serious? Come on, exactly. Bro. Like, don't be a clown. Don't be a clown. People go to the circus to see clowns. We don't need that. I don't need to turn on the TV and see a clown. I go to the circus if I want to see clowns. So I say that to say, people like yourself, I love that you vocal about, you know, black media being showcased. And I love that, you know, people are giving you a platform. There are certain people that probably still haven't come to the table. That's cool. They will. Let this Black Lives Matter shit keep slapping. You know what I'm saying? Everybody want to come to the popping party. So I think that another thing about black media is we also have to be responsible with the power that we hold. I hope that I'm doing a good job, but I'm still joking. I'm still going to shoot some jokes. I'm still going to clown. I'm still going to talk shit. But I hope that the overall messaging is what I'm trying to portray is something that people can take with them and be like, okay, I'm rocking with that. As opposed to, no, we do not want him representing us at all. That has yet to come my way. And I know that has yet to come your way, because we treat the platforms with integrity. And I think that that's the most important thing, is that once you do get the opportunity, you treat it with integrity, because not everybody gets the opportunity. Just like not everybody gets a chance to drop a platinum record.
Mm-hmm. Hey, those who have ears, let them hear.
Bro,
if not,
please.
Dust your feet off and keep moving.
Please. And please, if you and black people that's gonna listen to this or watch this, you know, do your due diligence. You know, if you don't know something, figure it out, find out. If you don't want to find out, shut the fuck up. Period. That's all. Sorry.
Real talk, man.
If I don't know something, I'll be like, I don't know nothing about that. That's what I say. I say that all the time on the radio. All the time. I don't know nothing about that. I don't know what you think about the new rule in the NBA. I don't know nothing about that. I don't follow sports like that. I'm a Laker. I was born that way. My family's all Lakers. I'm a USC Trojan. Well, what you think about the coaching staff at UCLA? I have no idea. Don't know. Don't care. I don't know. Ask Nick Hamilton.
Hey man, I feel you. I said I don't hesitate to say I don't know, or I'll let you know when I find out. Either way is kosher with me. But Listen, man, I just want to say it's been a pleasure talking with you. I appreciate you coming on this show and really disseminating your knowledge and your insight, and just having some fun, man. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you on the radio. Hopefully, Bootleg Kev is getting better as well. I know he was dealing with the COVID-19 situation, so hopefully,
he's straight.
Okay, good. You know, and again, man, props to you and Chuck Dizzle, man, for what you guys have created and continue to create, man, and you guys inspire a lot of people. So, shout out to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, shout out to Brian Silas, your business partner and manager, for making this happen as well. So I want to give thanks to him. And let everybody know where they can continue to follow you, man, and keep up with all your great work.
Man, please. Only thing I care about right now is register to vote.
Okay.
I don't even matter. Go register to vote. You know what I'm saying? I was corrected. I said on the radio that you can't vote as a felon. That's not true. You can vote as a felon. You can't be on parole. Please, if you don't Google me, don't go watch my interviews. Go register to vote. Go register to vote, and don't just vote this November. I need you to vote for local elections. Do your due diligence. I've pledged in this city, in my area, Los Angeles County, San Bernardino, Riverside County, Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
In my section, I have pledged to launch a voting campaign. Shut Up or Vote is coming.
Okay.
I talked to DJ T. Shout out to him and Mustard. They on board. I was talking to YG yesterday. Shut Up or Vote is my campaign. That's what I'm pushing. I don't have a problem with people who don't have nothing to say. But if you got something to say, you better be registered to vote, and you better be voting, because it's nothing worse than people who complain about problems and don't bring no solutions. So Shut Up or Vote is my campaign. Go register to vote. And please, and I also have pledged to make the law more digestible to people. I have a call later with an attorney who is gonna help me pro bono to explain laws and regulations and rules to our people in a way that we can understand. So it's no excuse. So don't go Google me. Don't listen to my interviews. Go register to vote.
Hey, well, keep me posted on that on the Shut Up and Vote initiative. I definitely will support that. Like I told you on your platform, man. Let me know whatever I can do to help push that along. I'm here.
For sure. So I appreciate that, bro.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out this man here on this program. I can go so much further, but he has a limited amount of time. So thank you, man. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, Nick. Appreciate you. Keep doing your shit, bro.
Thank you, man. We'll do.